All right, ladies and gents, it is time for the Pocket Change Market Report. This is kind of your midweek edition. This one dropping on May 2nd on a Thursday out of all days. I want to thank you guys for coming on board as I try and catch up with all of the great Blue Ridge Silverhound stuff. It's been kind of a crazy week, so as you can tell, everything is falling a day or two behind on the videos, and I do apologize about that. But in any event, you're going to get this one, and I'm thinking that on Saturday you will get your normal scheduled PCMR like we normally do twice a week. And then as we head into next week, when things begin to really slow down, you guys will get a much more fluid kind of drop on the schedule for a lot of these mainstay videos. So we're going to take a look at some of the more relevant kind of like errors, varieties, various kind of odds and ends of coins that folks have been cherry picking out there, whether that's going through coin rolls or your kids' big bucket of change or whatever the case may be. You can even throw in cherry picking the coin shows. A big coin show is happening this week, ladies and gentlemen. The Central States Numismatic Show in Chicago is going on. So that's one of the bigger events of the year that everybody's looking forward to. And rest assured, there's going to be a fair amount of cherry picking going on there. If they could be found in any one of these particular outlets, they can be resold and then profit happens. And, that's kind of a good way to supplement your income if you guys are working a regular 9 to 5. So we're going to take a look at some of the hits. Not a lot of misses here this week from the good old world of the hunt. I want to thank you guys for coming on board. A few little ground rules like we normally do. We don't talk about graded coins because why? You're going to be spending a lot of money to grade coins, and it doesn't necessarily affect the value of the coins in a positive way. It might even go down. You never know. So just keep the money in your pocket and just take good pictures and resell it, or add something pretty neat to your collection if that's what you want to do. And second of all the photos that you're going to see here today are 100% original to these sellers' listings. We didn't do anything special. We didn't juice or doctor any of the photos to make them look better. Kind of hard to, really improve something that is pretty rough to begin with. So you're going to get the best and the worst photographic images. You might even get a little bit of a photography lesson as we go through the coins here today. So we're going to look at roughly about the last 24 hours of activity on eBay. The small sample size does not completely reflect what is going on over the course of the last day. Keep in mind, people are selling graded coins, and then there's a whole bunch of other coins that I couldn't fit on this report today that you guys need to check out. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the next thing that we have here. So I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, few big things are happening. We just went through an incredible April campaign, a huge GSA Carson City Morgan giveaway. A lot of people came away with something pretty neat. It was fun. It was a lot of fun, but boy, did it take its toll on me. I need a break. All right. So the month of May, we're gonna have a show here and there. We do have one coming up here tomorrow on Friday, May 3rd, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. This is what we call the May kickoff US type and currency show and sale. We're only a few hundred away from 10,000 followers. I don't sell every single day on Whatnot, which kind of hurts, the progression in which I get a lot more followers, and I'm okay with that. I really don't care. But what I do care about is hitting 10K and then trying to plan an epic giveaway event. Me and my wife are talking about it. We got some really cool stuff slated for the 10,000 follower giveaway. Again, we're like 300 people short from that. So if you want to come on board, show your support in a big way, just come on by and just hit that follow button over there. But if you wanted to participate in some of the auction events, we have it all, ladies and gentlemen. And we're kind of known as the blue collar auction on Whatnot, where a lot of it is relatively inexpensive and high quality. That's kind of like two things that doesn't necessarily show up too much in the coin market, and I want to make that happen for you guys. So go ahead and check out that referral link that I have down below in the description box. Just go ahead and click on it. It'll take you to Whatnot. Sign up for the platform. If you use my referral link, you will get $15 in usable store credit, which is a game changer if you're looking to save money on that first coin purchase. All right. So thank you guys again for all of your support. We are almost there. I'm excited. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of when, not if. And I'm excited to give back to the community when it does happen. All right. Let's go ahead and jump right into these listings for the week. And then we're going to kind of go as quickly as possible through these because a lot of you, I'm sure, know and are very familiar with what types of errors varieties we're looking at. Starting out with one of the more common dates of off center and broad strike, Lincoln Cents, the year 2000. A lot of these were produced at the time. The U.S. Mint, I'm not going to say that they just didn't care, but they did put these into those mid-zone bags before they went out to the Federal Reserve banks. Okay, so there's quite a fair amount of these. They stopped transporting the newer coins in bags up until about 2002 to 2004. Okay, there's a little bit of a foggy kind of period there in which that may or may not have occurred. But what I can tell you is a lot of these did ship out with just a regular coinage, and you could open up a mint-sewn bag at any time and find a few or a lot of these things in that bag, which was pretty cool. This one is off center by a very small margin, 7-8%. Nothing too crazy, but I wanted to let you guys know that this one did sell for $17.99. It's a good bargain piece for someone that's looking for a neat kind of, I guess, conversation piece, I suppose, where it's not going to break the bank. All right, but just know that there is some value here with these much more later dated off center strikes. The next one that we have here, I can honestly say, first time that we've ever covered this particular variety, but it helps to know that it exists, and it's one of the more valuable varieties in the Lincoln Cent series. It's the 1927 D over D repunch mint mark variety. All right, and sure, the date in itself is a little bit more tougher than anything you could find much later. But just recognize that there are a couple of really neat varieties you could find in 1927. This is one of them right here. When we look up close here, you can see the secondary Denver mid-mark is punched north of the primary. We call this the double D variety, much like a lot of the other dates, going all the way up into the 50s and 60s. The repunched mint marks were kind of par for the course then, because the mint employees, they had to punch with a long steel punch, of course, to the working die the mint marks. Okay, and then it wasn't an exact science. They'll tap it in a little bit high, then they'll take a look at it and they're like, oh, it's too high. Let's go ahead and reset it and retap it over the existing mint mark that they screwed up on. So it's something that happened. It was very commonplace, but to collectors, this is a huge bane for a lot of people that's looking for something really neat. So this is RPM number one. I'm sure it's a cherry picker's guide variety. I've seen it in there. This particular coin, and this just kind of goes to show you how much more valuable the earlier dates of varieties are, ended up selling for $79. Okay, that's a really good take-home check on something like this that you could find for maybe $5 or so. It is a little bit tougher date, but not one that's going to necessarily break the bank. So you could very easily cherry pick something like this and then resell it for a nice, tidy profit. The next one that we have here, and we actually come back to currency. We got some paper money to talk about this week. Here is a non-colorized $20 bill. It's a 1996 by series date. But check that out. We have a what appears to be a full back-to-front wedding transfer. All right, which is really incredible. And this is all remnants of ink that was on the impression cylinder. So kind of like similar to what a die clash is in coin production, right? Die clashes occur when there are no blank planchets to strike on, so the dies make contact with each other and transferring the design from one to the other. Same with paper money. If there's no subject sheet in the print area of the impression cylinder, then the impression cylinder and the plates are going to make contact, thereby leaving some of that residual ink of whatever was on those plates on to the impression cylinder. It's either going to be the front print or the back print. In this case, it's the back print that was transferred over to the front. These are incredibly valuable. Normally, the other side will be just normal. And this note is a great representative of what one looks like, after a fair amount of circulation wear. Like this one was not found very early on. This one went from hand to hand, wallet to wallet, for probably a good year or so based off of the circulation I see. But just recognize these things are big money, especially if you could find a transfer that's a full 100% like this one. $254.98 was the sale price on this thing. And after hearing that, I'm willing to bet you guys will take a second look at all of your paper money. It's huge. And it's good to see a old variety or error that we haven't seen in a while kind of revisiting the marketplace. And this is a great example of that. 2021 Tuskegee Airman Quarter is the final National Park quarter in the series. And there was a pretty big error, a big boo-boo that ended up releasing in large numbers. There was no shortage of these, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the Burning Building Strike-Through Quarter. That's the one that you see here. Now, you are going to find these on Philadelphia struck examples. Just look out for the P mint mark on the obverse, and that's how you can tell that you have a Philadelphia coin. But if you look at this area right here where the Tuskegee Airmen headquarters is, you might be able to find one where it looks like it's on fire. And how this happens is there was some grease on the die with some debris, could be metal shavings, dirt, dust, you name it. When it all mixes together, that oxide grease turns hard as a rock. All right, and it'll sit on the face of the die. So anytime a coin gets inserted into the striking chamber, it will leave an omission based off of where that grease spot is on the die. It'll leave a cratered emission of any design onto the coin that it produces, much like this. So this one right here sold for $99, and that's great to see because these things got down to as low as $40 to $50. And sure, you're not going to find a whole bunch of like high-end specimens like we did a few years ago, but still, it's good to see these kind of come back from the dead. People are learning to appreciate some of the errors from yesteryear, especially when the Mint has tightened up their quality controls here in the last year or two. It's just really hard to find a good error these days. The next one that we have here, and this is one of those kind of classic cases where you should look at every coin. It doesn't matter what it looks like. This is a 1904 Indian headset, and it looks pretty rough. It's all gummed up with grease and corrosion and all sorts of great stuff, but take a close look at the reverse. Okay, there's something very special there, right around the 4 o'clock position of the coin. There's actually a retained cud or a pre-cud where the the reverse die had cracked due to wear and tear. So when it strikes up all of the coins, where that cracked piece is on the die, as long as it hasn't fallen out, it'll strike up coins with that crack transferring onto that part of the coin. Um, you can find these events on just about every date of Indian Head Sent. I actually found like 3 or 4 of them over the weekend through a local show, and I'm telling you, these things are money. This particular one is in pretty rough shape. I know nicer ones typically command on average $25 to about $40. This particular one, because of all the grease and stuff, sold for $17.60. You can buy it for under $1 and, kind of reap the rewards of such a find. So make sure you're looking at every single coin and even ugly sells in today's market. Here's a 1957 Lincoln wheat cent. Okay, this is a very common type of error, and it's quite minor and minuscule. If you don't look at it or look for it, you'll miss it. I mean, that's a proven fact. But right here, in between the B and E and Liberty, there is a die chip. Okay, these are commonly referred to as BIE die chips. All right, which is a little piece of the die had fallen out just again due to wear and tear. The area between the B and E is a very sensitive, weak spot on the die, and it's very much prone to cracks and breakage. So that's where this comes into play. And you can find it across many dates, even going up to the most current dates of Lincoln Sense. I found one on a 2021, and I was more than shocked, you know? And they all have some sort of value. Now, the 57 is one of the more common dates for BIE die chips. This one happened to sell for $7.64. So if we look at it, if I kind of explain it to you this way, this coin sold for 764 times face value. I think you guys would probably appreciate the value increase if I explain it in that fashion. You know, it's kind of like far fetched and kind of reaching, but I love to illustrate that because when something sells for $5 or $7, a lot of people kind of moan and groan, like, oh, it's not even worth it. But at the end of the day, you know, if you do a plain white envelope shipment for this, you end up selling the coin for $7. You profit about $5 after fees. I mean, all that money goes into the same bucket, and you cobble enough of these smaller sales together, it's going to be like you made a $50 profit or $100. You have to think about the long term game here and not just go for the big ones because the big ones doesn't necessarily pay the bills here, guys. So always utilize all the coins across the spectrum, sell these things, earn your couple bucks here, earn your $10 there, your $20 here, and they all go toward the same goal, guys. You know, it's just how quickly do you make that lead happen for you? This one's pretty neat. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people do overlook this. 1965 Lincoln Memorial Cent, and I come across these quite often. And when you look at the reverse, that is a strike through. All right, there is like a swath of grease on that reverse die. When it strikes through the grease, you're going to get a very weak proportioned design. There's virtually no relief there in that area where the grease is. So when you see that, put it aside. It's quite a minor event. It's very common, but a lot of people just throw these out, you know. And this coin is far from perfect. Sure, it's a nice mint red, but it's got a few carbon spots and things like that. But how about $12.99 on this coin? That's what it's sold for. And if you had a number of these that you had found, you know, just through like a recent kind of like search or a coin roll hunt, and you went and sold them for like $5 to $15 a piece, again, that all kind of makes a little bit of a difference. When you think about, you know, the amount of profit you can make just by selling 3 or 4 of these, it'll be enough to, you know, take your family out for dinner, you know, or, you know, just the kind of like the opportunities here are endless. So I want you to think more broad about what you can do to further your online career when you're in the coin market. Okay, you have to utilize all the potential avenues here, so that way you can be successful. Pretty neat one here. 2001 Lincoln Memorial Cent. A little bit broad struck or off center, but take a look at the reverse too. There's some strike through happening there as well. A little bit of grease on the die. Pretty neat little dual error event on this one. This one ended up selling for $11.50. Again, it's another coin that you could find out there that most people would generally overlook. And I don't even have to get close on this one. This is a very neat repunch mint mark and one of my favorites. This is the 1960 large date D over D RPM. This is actually RPM number one or FS502 in the Cherry Pickers Guide. And you can see right there under the date the classic D over D repunch mint mark. This is one of the strongest, so much so that you don't even need a close up of the mint mark. Just one look at that, you can see the secondary Denver mint mark is punched west of the primary, and it's got a nice overlap to it. This particular one right here sold for $18.50. Call it like it is. It looks like to be like an AU condition coin. It does have some circulation wear, a few heavy contact marks right there on the face of Lincoln and in the fields. So again, far from the perfect coin, but boy, the money is big on these varieties. All right, our next piece of currency, a neat one here, 1974 $1 Fed Reserve note. So you can see kind of a printing issue on that secondary print, which is the base black print of the note. They call this, and makes sense, insufficient ink error. All right, so the ink wells, they ran dry. That's what happened here on this one. Now, you do have a really robust overprint, so there was no issue there on that print. When we look at the reverse here, you can see just a nice crisp reverse print. Nothing going on here that would make you say otherwise. So this one right here, again, these are pretty big in the currency error market. This one sold for $139.61 with 22 total bids. And again, do I have to stress? It's not graded. So you could very easily spend 40, $50 to get this thing graded, and you would still sell it for 130, 150 bucks. Okay, so that's not going to do you any good. You'll end up net losing money here. Pretty rough, but again, rough doesn't matter. You know, there's still some associated value here. 2003 A $1 bill with like a few stains and stuff on there. It's been folded over a cajillion times. But check out the overprint. It's misaligned and shifted to the right by a good degree. A lot of that green, the green ink on here with the serial numbers and all that is overlapping some of the base elements design on here. When we look at the reverse, my goodness, it's ugly. It's ugly, but you know, we can still see some green here. It's still money, even though it's ugly. This one right here sold for $25.30 off of 10 bids. Why would you not sell this for $25, ladies and gentlemen? If you don't like the look of it and, you know, it offends you, all right, it won't offend that diehard collector. They will gladly open up their wallet and throw some money at you just to own it. We also have this 1969C $20 bill. Again, same issue here. We have that shifted overprint alignment or misalignment. Everything shifted to the right to a much larger degree on this one. Pretty nice older note from 69 series, and when we look at the reverse, nice kind of like very well centered reverse print here. This one sold for $133.99, and that's with 13 bids. So again, paper money errors continue to push very favorably in the plus column. These are always a huge win. I'm glad to see that these things are not waning in popularity. As a matter of fact, it's doing the exact opposite. There are more people getting into this part of the hobby, and it shows. Always a neat one here. When you can find something oddball about a Steely, you know, anything 1943 Lincoln, steel scent, a broad strike, an off center strike, a strike through, you know, various different things. We have what appears to be an off center strike, which is an out of collar event. So the collar malfunctioned. You know, the planchet was a little bit off. It wasn't perfectly centered in the striking chamber, so it'll produce things like this. It does have a few scratches there on the obverse, which could have happened during pack out. You know, when a you know, a company rolls these up, you know, in paper roll paper. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, but you get the big idea. But any sort of error, again, on one of the most popular singular coins in U.S. history, again, sign me up. These things are always a huge performer. In the case of this coin, which by the way bears a San Francisco mint mark, they're not. They're not prone, or they are prone to errors as well. $150 is what this one sold for. That's an incredibly surprising amount of money. I've seen other examples that have sold for less. All right, so we're kind of like a new territory here when a lot of these particular coins, they'll command more of a market. We also have a silver certificate. And again, just like the other dollar bill that we looked at, this thing has been around the block. Even has some kind of like ink smears or blotting or whatever it is on there. It's not the perfect note. 35E series, $1 silver certificate. Look at the reverse. We have a misaligned back print this time, to where you could see the corresponding note on the subject sheet. So it was misaligned probably by a good 3/8 of an inch, which is pretty big. That's a pretty substantial misalignment. This one sold for $175. Could you imagine how much this one would have sold for if it was in perfect condition? Probably 2 to 3 times that amount. Here's a 1989 Philly Jefferson Nickel. It's definitely off-centered from what we could see. It's off-centered by about 20%. Very collectible, full readable date and mint mark. Incredibly meaningful to a collector of this type. And it sold for $30.99 with 23 bids. And this is one I've highlighted before. One of my favorite Cud die breaks is the 1944 Philly with this particular Cud. It's a deformed, crazy shaped Cud on there. That's right at the base of Lincoln's bust. Again, a piece of the die had cracked and eventually fallen out. It has to fall out in order to produce a full-fledged, mature Cud die break. Okay, and that's one that sits off the surface. So you can feel it with your finger just how much it's puffed up off of the coin. This one right here is sold for $68.40 with 19 bids. And for the first time ever, not that we've never highlighted a coin with a lime green background, because we have, it's this coin right here. It's in the Cherry Picker's Guide. It could only be found as of right now on the 1944 Philadelphia minted Walking Liberty half dollar. So I would say, grab your 90% scrap. I'm sure you guys are going to have quite a fair amount of these coins, and pull out all your 44 Philadelphias and take a look for the ones that are missing Adolph Wyman's initials, which is normally sitting there right under the last set of tail feathers. Okay, that little empty pocket. It is gone. It's been either a fill die event or just over abrasion in this particular case. $39.99. Keep in mind, these coins are roughly about $9 to $10 in melt value, which is what this coin is. But with this variety, folks, $40. That's 4 times the money. It's all good. That is gravy. It's always good to see one of these. The likelihood that you could cherry pick one for cheap, pretty tough. Although I would say this one went pretty affordably. I'd say there's some money to be made here. 1936 Mercury dime, off center by about 20, 22, 23%, somewhere in that general area. It's pretty cool and a very nice grade too. I would say probably like an AU50 grade. It appears to have full split bands, which in circulated grades it doesn't mean a whole lot. But this one right here, folks, $299.95. I would say out of all the coins that just kind of exclusive 1% that I would say go ahead and get graded. If you put this one in plastic, you could probably get like $500 for it. So there is money to be made if you recognize that and you're privy to what the market is off of these type of mid errors on obsolete older type coins. You should do really well. Pretty neat one here. Not a rare date as far as off-center strikes, but I think the photography is really nice here. And it's a good-looking coin. 1972D Lincoln Memorial Cent. It's off-center by a huge amount, probably 80%. Keep in mind, you could cherry pick these at the coin shows. There are dealers that don't deal in error coins. So the likelihood of getting a pretty good deal does exist. I've gotten a fair amount of them myself. So this one right here sold for $53.70. That's a high watermark for this particular date. I haven't seen them sell for that kind of money. And our final piece of currency for the day. Man, this thing is nuts. 1988 $20 Fed Reserve note. It looks miscut, kind of. And look at the overprint. It's inverted. It's upside down. I mean, this is kind of like this is a wet dream for any sort of currency error aficionado. This is like one of the big ones here, short of like Yeah, let's see, kind of like mismatched serial numbers and things like that, which are pretty big too. Look at the reverse. So definitely a miscut here of some sort. But it's that overprint that's been printed upside down. You know, the whole sheet was probably affected. Surprisingly, they don't take out every single note through the quality control process. $464.99 was the sell price on this one. And if you think that's a lot, it's right on the money. And probably the steal deal of the day. My goodness, the thing is really cool. 1982, small date, bronze, Lincoln Memorial cent that was struck through a very late stage cap die. When I mean very late stage, that thing was razor thin because you almost have a full strike of everything on that obverse there. You don't see them like this every day. You know, this is kind of like a one-off event because normally those die caps, they kind of like wrinkle up, they tear, they fall off, or just simply a mint employee finds out about it. They clean up the dies, take the offending die cap off, and then it's all done. Very rarely do they get to this stage where it's so razor thin that you have the punch through of the original design of that hammer die that goes through the cap and then onto the new coin. So this one right here, I was more than shocked that it only managed to sell for $10.64. Oh man, this is usually worth about 3 to 4 times that. Based off of all the other ones that I've seen that have sold for between 30 and $40. Someone's either going to add something really cool to their collection for cheap, or they're going to rip the sale sometime in the future. And the final one, again, another big one here. First of all, look at the coin. I mean, it's unassuming, it's dirty, it's stained, it's got carbon spots. I mean, if we were all living in a vain world, this is something that we would all avoid. You know, let's be honest here. But um, the lesson is you got to look at every coin. All right, 1983 Lincoln Memorial cent, the big, huge doubled die reverse, the FS 801. This is the one that we all dream of finding, because the prices, the value, and the collector desirability off of on these are off the charts. They've been going up and up and up over the course, I would say, of the last 5 years, ever since before the pandemic. These things have risen to just a whole new level. And in case you need some sort of refresher, this is what it looks like at closer up magnification. Good job to the seller making these photos happen. I'm a proud papa here. These make the coin, and it makes it a very relevant piece for a collector. Now get this: in this condition, it sold for $174.99, which is a pretty big amount of money for a coin. With the myriad of problems that it does have, but it's a testament to the desirability and how much this coin is being pursued even today in this condition. Well, my friends, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for this edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. The information today is for educational use only. Hopefully, it served just that purpose. Nothing is financial advice. Please do collect and or grade your coins responsibly. But that's going to go ahead and do it for today. Hopefully, this video gave you some incentive to go out there and to really do some hunting. And I hope it does. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as usual, to the video and to my channel if you haven't done so already. I'm out of here. I got to do some cherry picking of my own because I am Jonasing right now. I need to touch some coins because I love the thrill of the hunt, and hopefully you guys got that itching bug as well. I'm out of here. You guys take care. Happy hunting and best of luck to you guys. I will see you on the next coin video. So long.